Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. BTM here, bringing you another Age of Empires 3 match. I am playing French in purple against an Iroquois in blue. The person I'm playing against is a very, very good player. He has almost 3,000 games on this account, which has been active since 2006. So I know right from the bat that not only is he going to do the standard Iroquois strategy, he's going to do a good job of it. So it's going to make this an interesting game. And to be honest, right off the bat, I'm not quite sure how well I can fare, just because, one, he is an incredibly experienced player, and two, he is playing Iroquois, and I know that some people say that some civilizations are or are not overpowered, but Iroquois is about as overpowered as you can get in Rush. They rush hard, and they rush fast, and they rush early. It'll take a fair amount of luck and skill to be able to win this one. However, no spoilers. Let's just see how it goes out. I start off the game doing all my normal stuff, and right off the bat, I am completely aware that I'm going to have to age with less than the 13 or 14 villagers I was going to. However, I think I will end up aging with 13 villagers, just because I'll make 10 and then I'll end up aging at that point. I will have a delay, though, after aging. Now, I am looking around for treasures, and I find that 60 experience treasure, and that's going to be a pivotal part of my gameplay strategy at this point, because I'm aware that if I can get that 60 experience treasure, I possibly can get my 3 Courrier de Bois shipment out earlier, and that will help me age even faster, because the Iroquois should be hitting the second age probably around 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes if I get a little bit lucky. So already at this point in the game, I know I'm going to be in for a hard and fast ride, and I'm going to have to be even with him. Now, my goal here was to play a little bit defensive, which probably wasn't the smartest idea, but I decide I'm going to try to turtle him out, and the reason why is I know Iroquois can get a lot of units, but I don't think either Tomahawk or Iena will be able to siege effectively, so I made a decision that when I age, I'm going to, instead of aging with a 400 wood like I'm supposed to, I'm instead going to age with a 200 gold and a tower, and I do think that was a gameplay error on my part. It is very important when you're playing a game not to rigidly and dogmatically stick to a single strategy, and that's very true. However, at this point, I think there's a reason why you age with 400 wood. I think being able to build 2 barracks probably would have been a smarter choice in the long run than what I did, but we'll get to that when we get there. Now at this point, as you can see, I have 8 villagers, making 2 more. I'm shipping my 3 Courrier de Bois. I kind of messed up a little bit in terms of getting that shipment fast. I did collect the treasure and then failed to capitalize on it immediately. Shame on me. A little bit of a micromanagement mistake. At this point, though, with 9 villagers, I'm going to stop making more, and I'm going to end up aging actually with 12, not 13 like I initially thought, unfortunately, for me, for making a mistake, I guess. And pretty much at this point, I'm just going to sit on top of my town center and try to age as fast as I can. And I am debating here, but I am going to end up going with the outpost wagon. Like I said, I figured, especially because I had the hunts on the edge and the peripherals of my town, it was going to be very, very important to me to protect my my Courrier de Bois out there and try to prevent raiding, because the Iroquois really are a very strong raiding civilization. Now at this point, I'm aging, so I'm going to split my villagers to a 6-6 split on food and wood. Probably not the greatest decision in the world, but again, the reason why I did it was because it is traditional when aging to split your villagers to a food wood split, and that's what I did. I didn't want to do anything crazy. I do check out his deck at this point. I see nothing surprising at all. That's actually why I spent less than a second looking at it. I just needed to see and make sure he had all like 800 cards that I expected to see from him in the deck, and he did. Now at this point, I see that treasure there, and it's a 40 experience treasure. It'd be great for me to be able to grab that. I start walking across the map to get it, thinking this will be great. I need it, and I do build a house while aging, and I do look again to check out his deck just in a little bit more detail, because I wanted to check to make sure he had that 4 Kanya Horseman card, because I was aware that if he had that card, he would probably ship it first, anticipating me to go crossbow. I kind of hoped that with my tower I would send, I'd be safe from that card, or safe from the effect of the Kanya Horseman. That was kind of my plan. However, it might not have worked out as well as I'd like. Now at that point, realizing that he's hit the colonial age already, and I'm about to, and he's definitely going to send 4 Kanye Horsemen, I decide to go after that healer, or at least start to go after that healer that's right by my town center, because keeping my units alive is going to be absolutely important. Now, as I'm about to encroach upon the colonial age, I set my spy in the middle of the map to stealth mode. That way I can see. I build my outpost really close to my town center, and I think that was an error as well, just because if I hadn't built my outpost so close to my town center, I think I could have definitely scouted out a little bit more of the map and had a little bit more of a range. Building it so close, I think, kind of put me on the back foot in terms of having to play defensively for the rest of the match. And having to play defensively, especially against an aggressive civilization or a better player, isn't a good idea. As I've said before, The principle is true in chess, it's true in Age of Empires, it's generally true in every strategy game you play. When you're playing somebody who's better than you, you want to be aggressive and force them to respond to you. When you're playing somebody who's worse than you, you don't want to be aggressive. You want to lure them into you and let them make mistakes. Now at this point, he's definitely a better player than me, so I probably should have not played so defensively. However, again, I've played with an Iroquois a lot. I have a friend who plays as Iroquois, and we used to 2v2 people all the time. So I'd be Indian, he'd be Iroquois, so I know how devastating the rush is, and I even played some Iroquois with him. It was a lot of fun. We had a blast doing it. Now at this point, he has a Kanya horseman coming into town, and he's going to be able to destroy one of my 2 outposts I just sent without taking any damage, and that really frustrates me. If I had sent my 8 crossbowmen card first, I would have been way better off in terms of being able to hit and run and get things done. That tower was essentially just a waste of a shipment at this point, unfortunately, and I've dug myself into a hole, one through sending the tower to begin with, because if I hadn't sent the first tower initially, I could have had 2 barracks up and probably an extra house, and as you can see here, that's important because I now have 32 population to my 30 population relative, so I've dug myself into a hole slightly. Now, if I had gone the same route I went in this game, and I just spread out my towers more, like put a tower up there by that herd, a tower in the middle of the map, and another tower on the peripheral of my town to the right, or I guess the east, depending on how you look at the mini-map, I would have been in great shape. Because if you look at this point, I now have 5 homemade crossbowmen, 5 homemade musketeers, and I'm shipping 8 more. So I'm definitely not actually in as bad of a position as I could be. I just positioned my towers badly and lost one of them due to negligence and poor playing. Now at this point I decided to make pikemen, which was again probably not the best decision, but knowing he's running around with horsemen, that was kind of a gut check reaction, which wasn't wise, and I think that was kind of not wise because knowing that he's going to likely go Ayena bowman in response after this, going with pikemen just sets him up to be killed easily. Now at this point, he's kind of got his army amassed. I have my army amassed. I should have at this point of the game marched on him, to be quite frank. He's trying to keep some pressure on me. If I had instead just neglected that and marched behind his town center, I would have been in better shape. And I am aware, at least in my head at this point, I need to get some tempo and pressure on him. I have a pretty good sized army, so I am going to start marching to him, and I do find a war hut right outside my town. So I do start to siege it immediately. However, his Ayena come, and I decide not to attack them, even though I have a far superior number, which was very stupid of me looking back at it now. But I decided not to attack because he was going to have the friendly supporting fire from his war hut to support him. Now, if I had stayed there and attacked, I definitely would have been able to kill those Ayenas with my far superior number of units, and I would have probably then been able to push on through and take out the war hut. So I made a huge blunder there in terms of turning backwards and not pushing my advantage when I had the chance, not to mention just some general micromanagement blunders that weren't good to begin with. I do, though, go get the war. I do go get the healer, actually, that's in the treasure above my town. Because at this point, I am very aware that I need to keep my forces alive. And the truth is, I probably have as many, if not more, units than him at this point. And I just haven't done anything with it, unfortunately. I've really been very passive and played badly. And that's really going to allow the Iroquois to have the tempo and just amass units, which is what Iroquois do. I really should have been putting pressure on him this entire time. So I'm definitely playing fairly poorly at this point of the game. Not in terms of execution, but in terms of actual military choice in the game. I shouldn't have sat back on my laurels and rested, which was kind of my gut reaction. Now at this point, though, I'm still making men, so my military production is fairly consistent. It's not awful. Now again, look here. I go to march into his town. I see his army coming, so I try to walk away. But for some reason, I'm really slow, and I don't know why. So I'm going to end up actually losing a tremendous amount of men here, when in reality, if I had just stood and fought, I would have lost so many more men. I would have lost so many less men than just running away and taking a ton of peripheral damage, which I talked about in my other videos, saying, oh, he ran away from me, so I just shot at him the entire time. Then he wondered why he lost the battle later. So I definitely didn't even follow my own rules that I tell you guys in this battle. And again, it was kind of all mental at this point. I decided that he was going to be better than me, and his units were going to be more effective. So I played timidly as an example, and you can see here that I lost my entire army hitting and running, and when in reality, if I had stayed and just played it out, I probably would have been way better off. Now at this point, I do decide to try to kind of get a little bit of a pressure going back on him, because I do have some more men coming, and I don't feel like the situation's desperate, but I really should have shaped up with him and just taken whatever losses I would have taken in terms of matching that early army. I wouldn't have been as bad of a position yet. Now in comes some skirmishers, and unfortunately about to be able to get them with my hussar. However, he runs in behind his tomahawk, which have an absurdly good attack, especially against cavalry. So I'm going to lose my tomahawk fairly convincingly. I'm also going to lose this battle, even though it's fairly close in the numbers. So all around, he just outplayed me and out-microed me. If I hadn't lost those hussar, what I probably should have done is I probably should have just run them into his town and started raiding and force him to micromanage and look back at his town instead of just focus easily on the battle near me. Now for card choices, I've sent literally both military card options I have at this point in the game like an idiot. So I have, well, not like an idiot, I think those are actually what I had to do, but I really have no more military cards, so I decided to go for 4 Courrier de Bois, realizing I only have 19 Courrier de Bois total, so it's going to be important for me to max out the amount of Courrier de Bois I have just in order to win. Now at this point, seeing his army at my town center, I'm going to mass my Courrier de Bois in my town center. That way I can boost my town center's ranged attack to a much higher level and hopefully help it survive while making some men from my barracks. However, all around not a good position to be in. Now he does realize that he's in a good amount of trouble here, so he is going to run away. However, still, at this point, the game is pretty much over for me. He's decimated me militarily. I don't have much more to do, but I'm not going to give up quite yet. I don't know. I didn't want to give up. Now, at this point, though, he walks his army back there looking for my villagers, and I'm partially able to save them. I kind of walk them out and around, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm pretty clever there, and I send all my villagers to wood because my plan is to throw up a bajillion towers. And then I looked away from those villagers and I let him kill some of them. And I was just like, yuck. So I let that villager go back and fight. That way the other 4 can escape. Because I don't want him to, all 4 to run and all 4 to get shot at. And I realized, well, crap. I've screwed up royally. Now at this point I literally have all 20 of my villagers on wood. And my plan literally is just to build outposts as fast as possible. And try to get whatever little bit of a defense I can. And then I'm going to start spamming units as soon as I can after that. He, on the meantime, is just walking around, making sure I am indeed actually contained in my town, and it's kind of like a shark circling a wounded predator. He knows I'm wounded, I know I'm wounded, but he's got to come in from the death blow. So I decided to make this death blow for him. I decided to make him earn his victory at the very least. I got 1 outpost up and built. I'm going to get my 2nd outpost built, bringing my total number of outposts to 3. I still have all my villagers on wood, and I'm starting to make a few units. Not doing, like I said, a tremendous job, but I just don't want to give him the victory. I don't want to roll over just because his rush was very good and I made some errors. Also, I still feel like I can beat him, and I don't know why. I know I've been outplayed, but I truly felt at this point like it was more my own errors that kind of cost me the opportunity for a close game rather than his playing. Now, at this point, I sent the 700 food because I'm not really having a huge amount of incoming food, so I'm going to want the 700 food so I can make some military, make a few Courrier de Bois, and after I build up all my outposts and build a mill, I'm going to build all my outposts, and then I'm going to build a mill and shift my Courrier de Bois to that. That way I get food source, and I plan to just turtle in my town and try to sit there for as long as I can. Hopefully he'll error or just will be intimidated or make some mistake, and I'll be able to fight him off. Although I know that's very unlikely. That was my plan. I'm just not gonna roll over at this point. I believe in fighting to the end. And so that's exactly what I do. Now I'm going to get another outpost built. At this point I have all 7 outposts ordered and built, and I'm going to get my food crates built. I'm going to start making musketeers. That's why I shifted some villagers to gold to do. And at this point, yeah, now I'm just waiting for his giant army that I know he's amassing to come running into my town, unfortunately for me, which is never a good place to be. It's kind of like you know you're going to be killed, but it's coming, and you just have nothing better to do than wait. I at least hope to make him work for it. Now I'm going to start to throw up walls here, literally just because that seemed like the smart thing to do. I started with that side, even though it wasn't likely he was going to attack from that side. Again, just to do it. And I think I'm going to start building a wall at the bottom of my map too. At this point, though, I have maybe 12 men and all my towers, which, if he's a serious player, won't scare him. I should have actually built another barracks at this point, but I wanted to get a mill and some villagers shifted to that pretty quickly. That way I could start having a solid food source. That way I could start spamming out crossbowmen and doing whatever I need to do to try to survive the coming storm, which I know is coming. I finally built a market, by the way, which is something I should have done, well, way before 15 minutes in the game when I've already lost to his initial rush, primarily. I'm going to keep trying to make a few musketeers I'm doing all the same old generic stuff. And I'm going to start building my wall. And in come his giant army. That's at least 50 units to my 20. Or my actually 16 units if I'm correct. And my tower really isn't going to be able to do that much. Plus he's got another 20 units coming in behind that. And it looks like from the top corner right of the map, the infomercial, like he has all his villagers on the war dance, so they're going to be even extra damaging. But I will actually mention that since I never did it when I was playing as natives, and I'd like to mention it. In a one-on-one rush, when you're attacking with a native civilization and you're kind of going for an all-for-broke attack, you can put all your villagers on your fire pit onto the damage ants to make them do 30 to 40% more damage, and it will have a tremendous impact on the effectiveness of your units. So I'd highly recommend for you guys doing that. If you're attacking, it makes their siege and their damage just be that much more overpowered and excellent. Now at this point, I did run all my villagers into my town center. Like I said, one last ditch kind of thing to get as much damage on him as possible. However, despite all the friendly tower fire, or my friendly tower fire he's going to have to face, it won't be hard for him to overcome them and defeat me. So in a few minutes here, I'm going to resign. So all around, it wasn't a great played match by my part, but there's definitely some strategic elements where I could have done better. And it was a match I was able to record for today. And like I say, I'm honest with you guys. I upload everything I recorded, and I happened to record myself getting raped by this person and not playing well. So I realized at this point, I have less than 300 total resources. He's just systematically burning my towers. It's GG. So it was a good game. I enjoyed playing it. I don't like losing. I really don't like losing. Like, I really hate losing. But I don't want to drag out his time. And it is what it is. So, all around a good game. I am going to look through the post game here really fast. And I am looking through his units, just trying to think about what I could have done better. I think the first choice, like I already mentioned earlier, if I had spaced out my tower, my 2 towers I sent better, if I had scouted more with my actual scout, if I had put some pressure on him, I would have been better off. And as you can see, he killed me in total resources and military units and units killed. So all around, he beat me in every major category that matters, handily I might add. It wasn't like it was even close. And part of that was because he got so much tempo on me to the point where I had to respond and really couldn't expand or utilize the map at all. Now in terms of military, he had 27 more units than me total. And at the end, you can totally tell he had a lot more than me. So he totally killed me in the amount of units he had. And if you look here at this military unit count, you can see that I actually was ahead of him in the early game when I was afraid to push and I kind of hung back. I had a pretty solid lead on him, and I didn't capitalize. But if I had capitalized at that one initial moment, destroyed his army by his war hut, and tried to siege the war hut, and then kept pumping out units there, this could have been a very different game. I don't know if I would have won it, to be honest, and it's kind of dangerous to say that I would have, because we don't really know that, but I could have pressed an advantage and at least made this game a lot more competitive. And I think that was kind of the moment I walked away from this game, and the lesson I learned, and I kind of thought about afterwards, thinking, alright, I made a mistake there. I could have done a lot better. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. It's a real pleasure to be able to play. So please be sure to leave a like, a comment, a request. I am going through user requests right now for my next probably 10 or so videos because I have a huge list I've been collecting that I have to get to. So in all your playing, guys, good luck, happy hunting. If you see me online, try to get a game, although no promises. I'm pretty busy and I'm not online a whole ton. And for today's closing remarks, I do have another quote from Sun Tzu, pardon me, and the Art of War, and it goes like this, and it applies very well to today. It says, "Rapidity is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unreadiness. Make your way by unexpected routes, and attack unguarded spots."